I like to take a more preventative approach versus a reactive approach to taking care of yourself. So a lot of times people think, when I'm stressed, I do X, Y, Z. And I say, before I'm stressed, you need to do X, Y, Z, because when you are in that moment of escalation, you're going to default back to whatever you're used to.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators, part of the Ripple Maker Project. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's nice to see you today.
It's nice to see you too. We have an exciting interview coming up with Amanda Muhammad, who is just the biggest breath of fresh air and like the most able to like take a lot of complicated research and like zip it into actionable strategies. I challenge anyone to listen to her interview and not walk away with something that they can do immediately.
There are a lot of tips in this interview.
Yes. She's tiprific.
Oh, you did not.
I did. That's what she is. I'm sticking with it.
All right. Should we listen?
Yeah. Let me just tell folks. So Amanda is a mindfulness-based stress management and psychological safety consultant. So she has, she's actually pursuing a PhD in business psychology, has a master's in organizational leadership, bachelor's in management and leadership, and she's certified in all the things. Mindfulness, compassion fatigue, yoga, and works with many different industries because her work is relevant all around anything having to do with people. But she has a real heart for educators, and I think people are going to feel it in the interview.
Love it.
Sweet. Let's do it.
Okay.
Hello, Amanda. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to get to soak up your wisdom and share it with the listeners because you and I were first introduced during COVID on like a Zoom panel around well-being and getting through that. And I remember like taking notes when you were talking and then like being like mental note, stalk this woman. You want to be her friend, you want to be her coworker, you want to be in her space. And then we crossed paths again a few months ago and realized we had a lot of friends in common. And now you're here.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful to be here. I remember that time and I'm glad that we got to share that space and that we get to share this one.
Same here. Tell folks a little bit about your story and how you got passionate about psychological safety and managing stress and mindfulness and all the things.
Will do. So my story dates back to when I was in college. My family was going through an incredibly hard time. I was at the University of Kansas. I'm a Jayhawk, if there's any of you out there. And my family was going through a really hard time. And I was at the University of Kansas, and I had a brother that was at Emporia State University. And he took a gym class, and he called my mom and he's like, hey, Mom, I know exactly what you need to do to manage your stress. And he's like, you need to breathe and you need to stretch. And she's like, whatever, David. Okay. So she actually ends up taking a yoga class at the local community college, Johnson County Community College. And she starts taking classes at a studio that's across from her school. So one day she has me come up from Lawrence to take this class with her. And at the time, she had no idea how I was grappling with what we were collectively experiencing. Like I wasn't sleeping, different substances to help myself get whatever sleep I could. Like it was just, I wasn't coping in a healthy way. Yeah. And so my mom invites me out to this yoga class and again, wasn't sleeping, right? So at the end of my yoga practice, I'm like, Mom, somebody was snoring so loud, like coming out of Shavasana, right? Like when you're in this state between being awake and being asleep. And she looks at me and she goes, Mandy, that was you. And I was like, what? Like, what is this that you just had me do? All it was a little bit of breathing, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of like focusing on whatever this kooky lady was talking about. And you mean to tell me I was able to pass out to the point where like I didn't even know I was asleep? Like, what is this?
Whoa.
So my mom ends up getting me like a purple yoga mat. I still have it in the closet from like TJ Maxx or Ross or one of those stores. And I just start rolling it out in my apartment. And I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that when I'm breathing and I'm moving, I felt better.
Wow.
Alongside that, I found a book at my parents' house called The Secret by Rhonda Burns.
Mm-hmm.
And I started learning about the power of positivity, the power of your mind, and just the world that we create by the way that we see it. Mm-hmm. And that was a really valuable lesson for me. And so I started leaning more into learning about mindfulness, into learning about things like the law of attraction. And alongside that, I was studying business. So my major was management, leadership, and HR. So I graduate from college and I start climbing this corporate ladder thinking I'm going to do HR. And long story short, I get into the work environment and I'm like, I don't know. It was just so different, and what I noticed was that there were a lot of people around me that were incredibly stressed, but very few people had tools and resources to manage and navigate it. And these tools were something that I kind of had in my back pocket that I would lean on from time to time. And what I noticed was when I used them, it made a difference. And when I didn't, it was noticeable. And I took this cycle of working for a big public company, a small private company, and then I landed in a school. And universally, there weren't many resources and everybody just took it in stride and this is what you were supposed to do. And I began teaching these practices and learning more about them and getting certified as a yoga instructor and a mindfulness trainer and compassion fatigue and all of these different areas. And as I started sharing them with educators at the time, I started recognizing like this makes a difference. I had students that were doing breathing exercises before tests and I was like, wait, like this stuff is working for me and it's working for them. And so eventually I decided, you know what, like I always said I had no man, no kids, no land. I'm leaving this job and starting my own. And I I started this.
Wait a minute.
Everybody loves that.
That's so good. No man, no kids, no land.
So I'm leaving this job. I'm starting my own. I can go wherever. Yeah. And I decided to take a leap of faith and began doing this work. And it's eventually, like over time, it's evolved. So I started with focusing on things that employees could do, that teachers could do throughout the day to manage their stress, right? Like what are quick, actionable things that they can do? And while I was doing that, I also understood that there's a bigger beast that's involved here because we can only do so much when we're in a work environment. So how do we create an entire ecosystem, which is where more of the psychological safety work comes in place? What are things that we can do at the organizational level? And what are things that we can do at the individual level? Because I think there's multiple levels of accountability. It's not all on our employer and it's not all on us. And so that is my story of how I got into this work and how it's evolved. And yeah, I love it.
Okay, there's so much juiciness there, but let me just start by saying how wild that your brother goes to a class, cares enough to share it with your mom, and then that births essentially your career. Mm-hmm. So I assume he gets a cut of everything you do.
He gets a cut of the credit every time I talk about it. But you know what? What's great? My mom is also a certified yoga instructor.
No
My mom
way.
is the one who helped me to get certified as a mindfulness trainer and put me in these different environments. Because originally, like when I was at KU, I was taking an entrepreneurship class and I actually built out a plan to have a yoga studio in Kansas City called A Piece of Yoga, like peace, peace sign, if you could see on my finger, right? A piece of yoga. And with time, I ended up moving and as I learned more about business and overhead, I was like, maybe I don't want a studio. And it's kind of transformed into this, but she's a big piece of my story and still continues to be one of my greatest supporters in this work.
A big piece
no
of your
coincidence
story and a big piece of your story, both.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So your brother's name is David. What's your mom's name?
Celestine.
Will they listen to this?
Yeah, I'll send it to them.
Yeah, we'll give them full credit. And they can have a cut of all the money we make from this
Okay,
episode.
Deal.
We'll all split the $0.
Hey, listen, energy is currency. They'll get a boost from it, right?
Hey, I love that. I love that. Okay, I had two more threads I wanted to pull.
Okay.
One is would love to spend some time thinking about your favorite things that listeners could try today.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thread I want to pull on is helping them understand what you mean by psychological safety and what is the work of people and systems to create that. So dealer's choice, which lane should we go down first?
Let's talk about psychological safety, because I think oftentimes when people hear the term psychological safety, it's like people don't know what it is. They just know they don't have it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I usually like to start, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what it means. And then there's a lot of, overlap between what you assume that it means. And yes, that is true. So psychological safety is really about creating a workplace environment where people feel safe to show up and be themselves and be authentic and speak up and contribute their ideas and do things that make a productive work environment. And there's different things that go into making that happen. And that's where, when you heard me say multiple levels of accountability, there's things at the individual level that we need to consider. There's things at the team level, and there's things at the organizational level. So a lot of times when we hear psychological safety, we say, oh, well, my employer's not providing that for me. So, and then like the work ends there and it's like, oh, they suck. It's not psychologically safe.
Yeah.
But there's also things that we're walking in each day and that we're not considering the way that they're impacting the environment that we're working in. And so that's where the multiple levels of accountability come into. So there's things that we can do at the employer level, of course. These are things like considering your employees' workload, their physical safety. That's a big one right now, especially in schools, right? It's considering that they have opportunities for growth, that we're actually recognizing their efforts. It's making sure that we're transparent about what our goals are and their expectations. Like, these are things that are core to creating an environment where employees can show up, they know what's expected of them, and they can do their best. And then there's those things that when we do have that environment that's in place, we still show up and contribute as well. Are we making sure that we are inclusive of the people that we're working with? Are we making sure that when people make mistakes, we're not ostracizing them for the mistakes like we wouldn't want to be ostracized? Are we, are we taking care of ourselves, which is such a big part of it. When I talk about the individual level, like self-awareness and being aware of how you show up and the impact that it has directly on the people that you work with, it matters. So it's not all on leadership. It's not all on the organization. It's on us too to make sure that with the teams, the dynamics that we're just in and day out, right? Like when you're having your vertical meetings or when you're just, in the thick of it, it's how we show up there too. All of that matters. And they all work together to create a psychologically safe work environment.
Oh, I'm so into the way you talk about the multiple levels, because it takes away this notion that it's all on us, kind of the way self-care gets weaponized, but it also removes the helpless, hopeless element of it's all on my organization. They either provide it or they don't. It's like everybody's working in parallel tracks.
Yeah. I will not surrender my well-being over to an organization. Understand. Right, preach.
Okay.
But seriously, you have to, no one's going to take care of you like you take care of you. You can't expect for your organization to know all of the different things that you're navigating and all of the different things that you need, because there's a lot of things you're not even ever going to tell them. Right. And so we're really setting ourselves up for failure by assuming that our highest good is just going to be left in their hands. But there's things that we can do. And a big part of that is having the self-awareness to know what it is that you need so that you can advocate and express that when the organization comes to their senses too and says, hey, we want to do better. What is it that you need? You know that because you know yourself, because you've audited, because you know more of what will create this environment that's going to be productive for you.
So powerful. And the other thing that really stood out to me in the way you described it is there's a real clear understanding that this is not soft and mushy.
Yes.
Like if all you're motivated by is the bottom line, this is important work. Right. If your motivations are more complex or more human driven, this is important work. No matter what motivates you as a leader or as an owner or whatever, you can't ignore this. Like it either turbocharges folks or it depletes them and makes them check out or whatever.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that's actually why the people who coined the term psychological safety are like kicking themselves, right? Because they're like, everybody thinks this is just mushy. And actually, it's one of the most important factors for your bottom line. You might not think that it's important, but when 89% of employees deem psychological safety as essential, you should get in line, right? So it does matter. And, if organizations have to keep that in mind too, because sometimes people or organizations go too far, one way where they only focus on employees' feelings and making sure they have space to talk about it. And now you're leaving, productivity on the table. And I think it's important to mention that psychological safety does not mean lack of accountability. It does not mean lack of high expectations. It means having those things and just considering that you have people here and what's going to create the environment that allows them to make the mistake, learn from it, and grow as an organization, that allows them to have the idea, express that, and not be reprimanded for it, or that allows them to, apply for the job, get there, and actually do what they were said without you breathing down their neck, right? Like it's the trust that's there. Like those things matter for the results that you want, the outcomes that you want as an organization.
Love it.
Hi, I'm Katie Worden, producer of Oxygen for Educators. I want to spotlight our sponsor, TakiBox. TakiBox is an elementary school program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool in daily practice to teach children to self-monitor their own words and actions and their responses to others. It's a proven tool that reduces behavior incidents by 66%. Through daily self-reflection, students build self-awareness, self-regulation, and meaningful connections. TakiBox is a light lift for teachers with a big impact on student well-being. Go to takibox.com to learn more and become a TakiBox district.
One of the things I notice in your work is you love the practical. Like you really get to the nitty-gritty of here's something you can do, here's something you can try. When you're out talking to educators, what of your practical tools lights them up the most? Where are you seeing them go, oh man, that's making a big difference for me?
Yeah, whenever I do my mindfulness-based stress resilience trainings, I actually call it the light bulb training, because when I'm in front of somebody, I literally get to see them go, oh my gosh, like, yeah, So in that training, we do like breathing and stretching exercises. We do gratitude. We talk about affirmations and journaling and positive thinking and perspective and things that are just really readily available to you. To that point, yes, I am very big on what are actionable things that you can immediately begin implementing that are going to make a difference. And the number one that I push is breathing and stretching. Because we don't just hold stress in our minds, we also hold it in our bodies. And so teaching them different techniques that they can do to release tension throughout the day, all of the other things, I feel like breathing and stretching is a foundational element to the effectiveness of everything else. We have to find ways to continuously regulate our system. And that is something that you can do no matter where you are. No one has to know that you're doing it, but just taking those moments throughout the day to take that pause, to slow down, to just get back online with where you are and what you need is really important. And the results are additive. So the more that you do them, the stronger that it becomes, the habit, right? Like it's rewiring your brain to see this as a resource. So if you do it once a week, you're going to get once a week kind of results. But when you are taking that moment 3 times a day to just say, okay, like check in, slow down, that becomes a new resource for you to be able to tap into. And so breathing is huge.
Can I, before you go to the next one?
Sure.
There's this wonderful woman, Donna Zhejiang, who's part of the Empowerment Dynamic Group. David Emerald, they wrote 3 Vital Questions and The Power of TED. And she, my sequence was I learned a lot about breath work before I learned about the nervous system. And I kind of thought of those. I hadn't really put it together in my mind. And I was doing a training with her, and very off the cuff, she said, each time we take a deep breath, we give our nervous system the signal that we're safe. And I was like, and I started thinking about oh, if you are in actual mortal danger, you're not stopping to take a deep breath.
Right.
And so just stopping to take a deep breath helps us distinguish that it's not a saber-toothed tiger, it's a snarky email. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just kind of brought it together for me in a oh yeah. Again, this is not fluffy. This is people moving back into their bodies and really realizing that they're having a human experience, which means how you breathe, how you move, how you take care of this vessel that we all populate, is a protective factor.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's why I stress that too. As you say, a protective factor is I like to take a more preventative approach versus a reactive approach to taking care of yourself. So a lot of times people think when I'm stressed, I do X, Y, Z. And I say, before I'm stressed, you need to do X, Y, Z, because when you are in that moment of escalation, you're going to default back to whatever you're used to.
Yes.
And so this is a practice of us building new habits so that when we are in that moment, we actually have a new tool and resource that helps to ground us in that quick moment between stimulus and response. When that stressor comes in, we have this resource that allows us to just take a quick beat and think more clearly in that moment, right? So it's really just about being more prepared for the inevitable stress that's going to happen. I don't think either of us go into a training session and say, hey, I'm going to make your stress go away. That's impossible. I'd never make that promise, right? Life is going to continuously throw us things. I think if you turn on any channel, look at any social media stream, you're going to see that we're constantly bombarded with no shortage of opportunities to be stressed right now. So it's more so about what we put in place to make sure that we are continuously taking care of ourselves even in these small and simple ways, seemingly small and simple ways. They have a big return on their investment.
I'm imagining people listening who are feeling pretty overwhelmed and they're like, yes, I believe you and I'll get to that when I get to it, which is never, because they're picturing it being some huge endeavor instead of like, no, you can actually do something in the next 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
That puts you on this path. What would you say to them about the next 30 seconds? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do they break it down and just start doing something?
I would say you're already doing it. It's just doing it a little bit more intentionally. Like if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are actively breathing. So all I'm asking you to do is just notice the fact that you're breathing. Like notice your feet on the floor real quick. Notice your seat in the chair. Like notice what's around you. These are all opportunities. When you think about just how much we are just going throughout the day, we don't take much time to just pause and just notice what's around us. That deep breath is so simple and so effective and so important. And it's there for you. It's the first gift that you were ever given, is your breath.
Oh my God. I'm feeling myself doing what you're saying and it's impacting me. Like I can feel it shifting me just in, again, 10 seconds.
Yeah. It's the type of breath, not the one that you have to do, but the one that you need to do. It's just the deeper, mindful breath. And then just knowing, that that's available to you throughout the day. And the more that you do it, the more that your body will naturally recognize it as something that you need to do. It can access it easier. And another thing is, when I do my trainings and whatnot, for a long time, I collected data. I did a pre and post test on before we did a practice and after we did a practice. And I found that on average, there was a 28% change in emotional state. And this is I'm watching this happen constantly. Just did it yesterday. And I had a woman with a 50% change in emotional state from a quick practice. And so, when we are, looking for those quick actionable things that we can do, I would say your breath is just one of the most reliable, easiest resources that you can lean on. And then you can go from there. But don't think of this as something else that you need to do. Find ways to incorporate it in what you're already doing. Got to wash the dishes? Notice your breath while you're washing your dishes. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice your hands in the water. Got to tend to the garden? Like what a beautiful place to be able to do that. But, do that. It's just being more present with where you already are,
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
I interrupted you to go deeper with the breath. Do you remember what your next thing that you were going to say was? We kind of went down a productive rabbit trail.
Oh, are you talking about as far as resources?
Yeah, or practices, or
practices,
like quick things that people,
Yeah. So I definitely say, your breath work. I think the continuous just checking in with yourself. Actually, one thing that me and my best friend have been doing recently, just because the news has been tearing my life up, has been just a check-in, literally saying, where are you scale of 1 to 10? And there's days where I'm like a 5 or I'm like a 6. Then we say, okay, like, what can you do to close that gap? And it might be like, okay, I can actually walk on my walk pad for the next 20 minutes while I look at these emails. Like, I can do a quick meditation. I know that I'm going to meditation class tonight, or I'm going to take my dance class on Thursday, or whatever it is that works for you. But I think that self-awareness piece and understanding what works for you is what matters. Because what I don't want to do is make you feel like you have to do exactly what I'm saying. Well, if I can force breathing, I will force you to do that. But you've got to find what works for you. And the only way that you will know that is to take that time and opportunity to get to know yourself. So as you're trying new things, just check in and recognize how much you like that, the type of shift that it did for you, so that when you do take those check-ins, you have some things that work for you. Another thing that I do, I have on my desk actually a card that helps to ground me. So if I'm finding those moments where I get overwhelmed, on my card, I list out 3 psychological and 3 physiological resources, because like I said, stress isn't just in the mind, it's also in the body. So on the psychological side, I know for me, I know I have to meditate, I pray, and I listen to motivational content. On the physiological side, I know that I walk, I do yoga, and I dance. These are the ways that I release excess energy and stress from my body that really work for me. And so, look into finding those things that work for you and putting them somewhere where you can access them and where you don't have to think,
Right.
If it's meditation, what are a few meditations that you can pull? And if you do that one time, then you can kind of put together a toolbox that works for you that you can lean on when you really need it. And then I think once you start doing that, you can find, I really like yoga. And then you find a yoga class that you like. And then that comes with community. And it's so great as educators to also have community that's not educators, as mental health professionals that have community that's not mental health professionals. Because what I don't want you to do is to just go into a community only to get thrown back into the space where you were, because all you do is talk about what happened with the kids or your principal or, whatever, right? So we want to change up our environment and give ourselves opportunities to have a fresh breath of joy, and the way that brings that to you. So mix up your spaces, find your resources, and make them readily available to you.
Gosh, that's a great tip that I don't hear very often, that the mixing up the spaces. That's really solid.
Yeah.
What you mentioned what's on your list, and I love the tip of begin developing clarity. It's not something anyone has to do right away or nail it, but like begin developing clarity when you're in a reasonably regulated nervous system.
Yeah.
So that then when you're in a survival state, you are not relying on yourself to come up with something that might help. It's on your desk, as you said.
Yeah. I keep it on my desk. And, there's folks that maybe put a sticky note on your mirror, or the areas where you tend to find like you are the most stressed, like put that reminder there, or put a pop-up on your phone or something like that. So just doing that bit of work on the front end can have great results on the back end. So it might take a little bit to figure out like, okay, I like yoga, but let me jump on YouTube and find a yoga with Adriene sequence that's like less than 10 minutes. I do too. Yeah. That's like less than 10 minutes, right? So it's just building up your toolkit. And to your point, like, let it be over time. I have a lot of experience in this space, and I very deeply know what works for me. But if you're starting from scratch, maybe you don't have 3, maybe you have 1, and maybe it's only psychological, or maybe, take the pressure off of yourself to have this all figured out, which I think would just be another tip is, to let it be a little bit easier, like we said when we started, right? Is to just give yourself some grace, recognize that we are collectively experiencing a time that we've never been in. And that's going to require us to navigate things in a way that maybe we haven't before. And, have some fun with the journey of figuring out what works for you and taking care of yourself.
Mm. In your comments, I hear an urging for people to pay attention to how they're relating to their circumstances. And I think a lot of us walk it through the world feeling like this is happening and that's the end of the story. And that can feel very hopeless, helpless.
For sure.
But if it's like, this is happening, but the juicy part is, how am I relating to it?
Yeah.
And everything you're talking about makes me think about people can engage all day long, every day in shaping how we're relating to the current state of the world or the country or our schools or, whatever, families. And like the woman you talked about yesterday, a simple practice shifted her 50%.
50%.
Now, that didn't shift her circumstances 50%, but
Right.
I guarantee her experience of those circumstances felt really different.
Yes. And I mean, talking about perspective, it's so important. The story that we tell ourselves, it matters and it can make a difference, right? And so we might not be able to change the circumstances around us. When we look at the things that are our stressors, the things that stress us out, the things that are weighing on us, we'll find that the overwhelming majority of them are not 100% within our ability to control them. The only thing that is within our control is how we talk about it, how we see it. And, that's a choice. And so one of the things that I teach on, I'm sure you're familiar with, the ABCs of stress. And that is, you have your action or whatever it was that caused the stressor. You have your B, so that's your A. Your B is your belief about the situation. And your C is the consequence or the stress. So I look at it like a formula. A plus B equals C. So if you're looking at something that's going on in your life, that's your A, right?
Yep.
If we want to change the C, the consequence, the outcome, there's only one variable that we can manipulate because the A is typically fixed. There's nothing that we can do about it. So that's where your belief comes in, your perspective about that situation and how you choose to respond to it, the lens in which you choose to see things through, that really matters as far as changing the consequence.
Amazing. And that's something we can do immediately. Just even hold some curiosity, like gentle curiosity around what's the story I'm telling myself that's creating the B. And I love the question, what else could be true?
Yeah.
You know?
Is there another way that I could be thinking about this? What's a different perspective here? And I'll give you an example. When the pandemic hit, I remember looking around being like, oh my gosh, like, is my business going to have to close? Because I saw people that were like, oh my gosh, my contracts just got canceled. Or, there were all these things that were going on. And I was looking at that and I let that become my narrative for a minute. And I started panicking.
Yeah.
And then I saw on Instagram a couple entrepreneurs that I knew that had the highest months of their career. So I think this was like May of 2020. And I remember seeing that and I told myself, okay, Amanda, you can either look at the doom or you can look at this. Like there's both of these things are true in this time. Yeah. And so a question I asked myself is, what you going to do? You going to barbecue? You going to mildew? And so I said, I'm going to barbecue. And so I said, you know what? Now more than ever, people need my resources. Now more than ever, people are going to want resources for their employees. And great thing, because I already know how to do virtual trainings. I've been doing virtual trainings. So I'm already prepared for this. And it was like, as soon as I changed my mind, and that's not the first time that this has happened, but as soon as I decided to see things differently, different things showed up. right? And so when we think about, one of the things as educators, thinking about why we started in the first place, thinking about what our purpose is here, really locking into that, I was able to tap back into why I was doing this in the first place and recognize that that's why it's magical. That's why it's going to work right now, is because that's what was put on me to do in this life of mine. So
amazing. That connection to meaning and purpose
matters.
Just keeps coming up in all of our talks. Like reconnecting to the students, your personal mission, your reason for doing this. A lot of the other stuff can start feeling like less powerful noise instead of like depleting noise. Yeah.
So, if we think of what we focus on expands, it's like when we wake up in the morning and we say it's going to be a crappy day, and then our mind starts looking for evidence like, oh, you see, I told you it's going to be a crappy day. And so can we change that and start looking for other things? Like, today's going to be a day where I really recognize what the work that I'm doing is important, and then start looking for evidence of that. And so also cultivate around you, as we talk about things like community and surrounding yourself and differentiating those spaces, making sure that you're also surrounding yourself with folks that have fresh perspective and just different ideas. A lot of times we sit down, we go to brunch or we go to dinner, we go to drinks, we call somebody up and we just start talking about everything that's going wrong. And I encourage you to find some spaces and people that will also talk to you about things that are going right. I'm so grateful to have friends that they get me together so fast because they're just like, hold on. Because you do recognize what you're doing by going down that rabbit hole, and not in a way that dismisses your experience, because it's not to say that the things that are happening are not real. It's to say that the way that we see them matters, and that we are the ones who have to deal with the consequences, if you will, of our perspectives and the way that we're navigating our situations.
Right. What is that that concept of the double arrow, that there's like what happens to us, and then sometimes we shoot a second arrow at us based on the stories we tell ourselves, or the meaning we make, the perspective we have. Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's called, but I know that what I say is don't suffer twice.
Yes.
So, sometimes we suffer in the thought and then we suffer in the thing, right? And so if we can just hold off a bit before spiraling and creating our own story around it that just may or may not be true, give it space and let it reveal itself, and then handle it then, instead of suffering in the thought and then calling your friend and then making it suffer more and doubling down and taking it, and we oftentimes can make things just so much harder for ourselves by not being present with our thoughts and the impacts that they have. Like when I do affirmations, we have a fun affirmations activity that we do with groups. I always tell them, I'm like, if I sit here and I'm like, Michelle, you are kind, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're funny. I've seen you speak on stages. You know how to captivate an audience. You're just an absolutely amazing woman, and you're brilliant and just so fun and warm, right? Like,
keep this going. Exactly. This is the best game ever.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And I'm sure the people that are listening, not only do they agree, but they probably have a smile on their face as well. So if it works that way, think about what happens when we talk counter to that, right? So the same thing happens to us, just in a negative way. And when we're doubling down and talking about it and, ruminating over things, we have other outcomes. And, I'm careful to say one is better than the other, but I mean, if you think about the way that you feel on the other side of that, you feel fired up. You're like, yeah, give me more of that, right? So just paying more attention to the way that we're talking about ourselves, thinking about ourselves, talking about each other, talking about our environments, like it really matters.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful. And I want your line of t-shirts with your good quotes. I want the calendar. I want the Oracle deck. I want all of it. So just let me know when you open up your store.
Will do. I got to get some products going.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
So we have some rapid fire fun questions. But before we go to that, 2 questions. One is, Is there anything when you were planning to come on that you were like, I want to make sure we talk about X, Y, or Z?
Oh, I think one conversation that's just important to have too is just to know and honor your boundaries. And when I say your boundaries, I don't just mean your boundaries with others. So oftentimes we think like that's a boundary and they crossed my boundary. I actually want you to think about your boundaries and honor them with yourself, because keeping that promise to yourself is really important. So if you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to take better care of myself, or I'm going to commit to doing this because you know it's something that would make a really big difference in your life, and then you don't do that, think about what that's telling yourself about how much you matter. And so above anything, uphold your own boundaries and standards that you want to have for your life. So I always use an example like with emails, which it might be a little hard, but take this and tweak it to however you need. Let's say that you say you're not going to answer emails after work. Okay. Mm-hmm. If someone emails you after hours, instead of being upset with them because they emailed you after hours, it's more so, did I respond? What am I teaching myself and what am I teaching others about my boundaries when I still respond? That means that I don't really have them. And so I think that knowing what is going to work for you and making that promise to yourself and keeping it and just proving to yourself, showing yourself how valuable and important you are, because you do matter. We need you here to do this work. And that, the things that you put in place, the things that you need are going to be completely unique to you. None of us can figure that out for you. So doing that work to understand what it is that you need and then honoring those needs that you have is one of the greatest gifts that you could give any of us, your students, your district, this world. Show up for yourself and be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like, I'm not even going to add anything because that was perfect. Before we do the rapid fires, how can people find you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, sure. So I am extremely active on LinkedIn. If you're connected with me, you'll probably see my face every single time you log on. So definitely engage with me there, but know that LinkedIn is full of resources. So I post on stress management and psychological safety 5 days a week. There's also a newsletter on there, and it's all loaded with really actionable tips. Beyond that, I do professional development training, and we have a number of different resources for educators. I specialize in working with educators and with staff across industries, and also doing a lot of work in the soft skills space for higher ed as well. So if you're on here, would love to communicate or chat with you. But you can find me at LinkedIn, Amanda Muhammad, or Mako Mindfulness. You can go to www.makomindfulness.com. You'll find me. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I look forward to connecting with you when you do.
And your site is so engaging.
Oh,
There's several YouTube videos that I watched to prepare. And I have to tell people, if they go to, I sound like and you get a free set of Ginsu knives. If they go to makomindfulness.com, you have an amazing packet.
Oh, yeah.
With 50 actionable tips for building resilience and stress and creating psychological safety at work. It's so well done.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I was sitting here looking at it going, I kind of want to pick like one tip for a week, for each week over the next however long, and just like play with them and see which one lands. So it's really well done. I hope people will grab that up and start using all your great ideas.
It's so funny. I'm like, I forgot that existed. But there are tons of resources out there. Please go and check it out. The website has a lot of resources. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Instagram. I mean, you get a resource. Like I promise you, search my name. You will find me. And if you need anything, just send me a message. Yeah.
I love it. All right. Ready for the rapid fires?
Let's do it.
Okay. The first one is, do you have a go-to song that gives you oxygen that educators should put on their playlist?
Oh my gosh. Probably something Mary Mary, which is a singer gospel singer that my mom and I used to listen to. Like, I actually use that as like my pump up music. I also like Beyonce, Grown Woman. I was listening to that the other day. It's a fun one. Yeah, those are probably like my go-to
those are
pop-ups.
good.
Yeah.
You had that right there. I love it.
I will also say I'm kind of a nerd, and so I do pump myself up with like motivational like content. I love listening to Emma Grede. She is the co-founder of Good American, Skims. Like she's this brilliant entrepreneur, and like I literally on my way to like trainings, and so, like I listen to her. I'm locked in, and I listen to the Alter Ego Effect. So like I do this whole like embodiment thing, like just getting into this whole new personality that's really fun.
That is awesome. Who's Beyonce's alter ego?
Sasha Fierce.
Sasha Fierce.
Yes. So the Alter Ego Effect, they talk about Beyonce in there and how she uses Sasha Fierce. That's actually been a really great like tool for me. I didn't know that I was doing it, and then I read the book and I was like, I already do all of this, right? Like. Yeah, like before I step into a space, I'm like, okay, like who are you? Yeah. And I'm like, I put that on, and that may be another idea, just another tip for the folks is just to like, when you show up, who do you want to be? Like throw on that personality for the day and like, let's go. And then you can take it off when you get home. You can be who you want to be at home.
Yeah, that's such a great way to protect your energy too, because you can send in a version of you that that can deal with whatever that meeting is, that whatever. Yep. And then, be protective of other parts of you that find that either upsetting or hard or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One of the women I trained with, Natalie McNeil, talks about essences and how we can like pick the essence that we want to take into different circumstances. Like, what is, if I want my essence to be generosity, let's say in whatever exchange I'm about to have, what does generosity look like? What does she walk like? What does she say? What does eye contact look like from generosity? So I love that stuff.
I love that. And I love that you get to define that for yourself, because instead of letting, again, somebody else define that for you, what does generosity look like for me? Because I only have so much capacity to be generous. Like, what does it look like to do that without pouring from a state of resentment versus love, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. This was supposed to be rapid. I'm sorry.
I am in your subgroup of offenders because I just want to talk about every idea you have for 30 minutes. Okay. Well, you've shared so many things that help you reset. Is there anything on your list that would surprise people who know you?
Oh, that would surprise people that know me. Well, I think one thing that people probably don't see or wouldn't think, because when I get on here, when I'm on stage, when I talk to people, like I can talk to a tree and be entertained, okay? People don't know how much time I spend in silence. Yeah. Like when I can get it, like in a car drive, sometimes I won't listen to anything. When I know that I've been like overstimulated, I do that. And I lie to my friends. I tell them that I'm busy and I'm not doing anything. Like I'm busy. I'm busy not doing anything. Right. Yeah. So like I'm very big on my free time does not reflect my availability. And like right now is a season that's just like, it's a lot of like the coffees, the lunches, the brunches, the networking, like, and I love that. But I also know what that does to me and how much it can drain me. And so there's a lot of time that I spend where it's just like quiet in the house, quiet in the car, a quiet walk to myself that just like no one knows, like it's for me.
Such good tip. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about like being true to the promises you make to yourself. Like if you know this is the time I need to then show up the way I want to show up. Am I going to honor that or not?
Yeah, definitely.
We've had several interviews, but the podcast is pretty new. And out of all of our interviews, it seems like 40% have talked about silent car rides. It's weird.
Yeah. I think we're just overstimulated. Like, you know, in that car ride, if you're driving safely, is probably the one time you're not like scrolling on your phone. And that's, you know, forces you to be a little bit more present. I know we can't get into the habit where you jump on the highway and like you don't remember any of your ride, but it's just a great opportunity. You got, you know, your hands at 10 and 2 and You're just kind of locked in. You can do deep breathing. You can focus on what's around you. I've done things where I'm like, okay, how many green cars do I see on my way? Right?
Yeah.
Like, which just kind of helps you to lock in a little bit more. Now, again, keep your eyes on the road and don't do this. If you see me on the highway, don't go trying a bunch of weird stuff. Okay. Because
don't come for us if
Don't
you
come
go
for
into
me.
some state.
Don't come for me and Tiggy. That's my car. Like we're just trying to make it. But do use that time, the time that you can get. And sometimes that's the time where nobody else is in the car with you. If you just drop the kids off at school or, whatever, it's just finding those moments wherever you can find them. Because you get home, it's so easy to turn on the TV or you got somebody that's right there with you. And so it's very rare these days that we don't have this opportunity for stimulation. So I think that that's probably why.
Yeah, you have to choose silence in today's world. Otherwise, you're going to have stuff coming at you.
100%.
And I really encourage anyone listening who's like, I can't sit still or I can't be silent, or just feels like some mild repulsion to the idea of being in stillness or silence to give some space and time to move through that, because a lot of us keep ourselves so overstimulated because we're terrified what we'll have to listen to if we are silent with ourselves. Yeah. Like we're terrified of what will come up.
Absolutely.
So I hope people will give some space for whatever needs to come up, get the support they need if it's overwhelming, but then also trust that on the other side of that, there's the nourishing of stillness and silence. It's not always going to feel anxiety provoking if you've been avoiding stillness and silence.
For sure. And I will say to that point, because for some folks,
we suck at rapid fires.
I know. That's okay. I mean, I could do this all day. I'm like, I got the time blocked off. But it's some folks, they do really struggle with the silence. And that's why when I teach mindfulness practices, I don't just teach just breath work. Again, that's why I bring in the movement pieces, because for some folks, they need, I call it that third anchor. You're moving, you're breathing, and you have something to pay attention to. So if we're just breathing, it's just the breathing and like paying attention to our breath. And for some folks, that can be incredibly hard, especially depending what they've experienced. A lot of thoughts can come just like flooding in, and that can be very overwhelming. And so for you, that may be a space where you do that with, a practitioner, with your therapist, someone like that. If you do find that you want to do these things, I do encourage bringing in a little bit of movement. So if you're breathing, even in your car, you can breathe in, bring your shoulders up towards your ears, breathe out, bringing your shoulders down. Just bringing in that third element can kind of help create, I call it a distraction factor, where it just kind of helps take away from the scariness of just your breath and that. So now you're telling yourself, breathe in, I'm bringing my shoulders up to my ear, breathe out, I'm bringing my shoulders back down. And so you kind of have that chatter where it's not that chatter of like, and I need to do the dishes and this person, I got to respond to that, but it's the chatter of helping yourself to get grounded in that moment. So bring a little movement in.
That's so generous. Like, it's like, make it work for yourself. Don't force any practice to serve you. If it doesn't serve you, tweak it until you feel like it's giving you that sense of groundedness. Yeah.
Always do what you need to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So this is Chris's favorite question. If you could etch a message in a stone that would be found 500 years from now, what would you put on your stone?
Create a great day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my slogan. Create a great day. The choice is yours.
I mean, talk about something that has always been relevant, will always be relevant. Yep. And it's so empowering in a time when so much feels out of our control. That is something we can all strive for. Create a great day.
Yep. Seeking your joy.
You didn't even have to think about that. No, it was right there.
Yeah, I know.
Get this woman some stones she can etch.
I got it. All these product ideas.
I love it. I know.
Stones coming soon.
I love it. Thank you so much. What a joy to spend this time with you and learn from you. And I know people will be reaching out and wanting to do even more work with you. You're a treasure.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Create a great day.
Hey, Chris, welcome back.
Hi, Michelle.
What jumped out for you about Amanda's content?
I mean, what didn't? I think my favorite thing was, and I'm not going to remember her exact slogan. It's how she ended the interview: "Create a great day."
Create a great day.
But just the only thing that we can really control is the lens through which we see a situation. That to me was spot on, and it was just a nice reminder. But I like how she presented it a little less heavy through Create a Great Day, because it's a heavy, deep concept, and she simplified it in just a fun, simple way.
Yeah, and it caught my attention that almost before I finished the question, she knew exactly what would be on her stone. Which I was like, okay, that's what it looks like to be committed to self-awareness and self-reflection and self-regulation and doing your own work. That's what it looks like, what we just saw in her for that last hour. Okay, how touching was it that she still has the first purple yoga mat that her mom, that she bought after her mom started to kind of, bring her into that world, in her closet? I loved that. I've thought about that since I talked to her. It's just so sweet.
It is so sweet. And I loved the part of her story where she's just she's moving with life to figure out what is unfolding for her career-wise, business-wise. And it sounds like she's just doing the work while it unfolds and getting wiser and wiser and imprinting it all on herself so that she could answer that question so quickly with a smile.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of joy. She carries a lot of joy.
Yeah. And it's infectious. She to me, and I hope people will go watch her on YouTube, because if you wonder what an embodied person looks like, who's doing their own work and who is like living in service of purpose, like go watch Amanda. Go spend those 45 minutes or whatever watching her, and you could honestly turn the volume off and watch her and get a lot out of it because of how embodied she is.
So I don't know if this is a common term or if we just made it up, but as you know, I just went to Tulum with one of my very best friends, and we were identifying people that we crossed paths with that we called were glowed up. Like they just put this out. And so when we left, we were like, next time we see each other, we're going to be even more glowed up.
Oh yes. Amanda
is glowed up.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. What else jumped out at you? Or do you want me to jump in with one?
I'll give you one more because it was on the tip of my tongue, and then I'd love for you to jump in. But I really liked her thinking around positive talk and negative talk, because I've kind of dismissed that in the past a little bit, and I'm bad about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm aware that when I wake up in the morning, sometimes I have a negative thought immediately, which is why I set my alarm to a song that puts me in a joyful place, so that's the first message I get in the morning. But I liked just the concept of what we think about expands. And it even took me to, that's why we're doing this podcast, because we're finding and highlighting the positive stories of educators who are doing amazing work, and because we want that to expand.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And just like how you lit up when she was pouring into you. I mean, it's like data. I would say there's data around it, and it was fun to see that.
Yeah. And then to grapple with the fact that the opposite is happening.
The opposite is happening.
If we're not marshaling our self-talk or whatever. Yeah. Did you know, I know just enough about this to be dangerous, but did you know that whole idea of what you pay attention to expands happens like at a molecular level, that like scientists, when they're watching molecules, something different happens than when that is not getting watched.
Whoa, no, I did not know that.
I mean, there's going to be people listening that are like, oh my God, get this woman away from a microphone. Like, you could not have butchered that more. But yes, it's like a quantum physics thing.
Interesting.
And again, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I can say about it.
Let's move on. Let's give me one of yours now.
Okay. One of mine, I really liked the implications of her conversation about ecosystems of well-being, that it's our work, it's our team's work, and it's the system's work. And if you put it all on any one of those, it's like it undercuts someone's sense of agency. It's like it can't all be on you, because that's insane, and that will make you feel like somehow you're failing if you're in a team or system that's got work to do. But also the flip of it, that you also can't put it all on the organization or the team, because that disempowers you just as much. And her quote, and she said, to your point, she said this in such a lighthearted way, but I was like, drop the mic. I will not surrender my well-being to an organization.
I wrote that down too. Yeah, it was powerful.
Kidding? That's so powerful. And how many people are walking around surrendering their well-being to an organization or a school or a political system, or like there's so many of us that are sort of sleepwalking into, if this isn't different, I can't be joyful, or I can't be peaceful, or I can't be well. And I feel like she's like, nope.
Well, and that goes back to the lens through which you see it, right? Which connects the dots back to logotherapy as well, because that's that third piece of finding your meaning in your work, finding your meaning in how you experience life. And then the third piece is, and there are some circumstances that you just can't change. And you have to learn how to find meaning in those circumstances. Which is the quote you texted me this morning, pretty much.
Yeah.
You should read that.
Yeah, read it. I don't remember it word for word, but I just remember it feeling very relevant.
Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. How do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you're having at the moment.
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle. So yeah, I love that. I love getting out of debate with your own self of whether or not this should be happening. In his mind.
Is.
Yeah, it is happening. I feel like so many wise teachers hit that point of like, that's a wasted energy. It is happening. And in his quote, therefore it is what you need to evolve, to learn, to grow, to all the things.
Which is the whole point of being here.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, we're done. We have wrapped up all universal questions and scene. Kidding. I made a joke.
I'm laughing.
No, you're not.
Sorry, I was looking at my notes.
It was bad. It was a bad joke. I took it too far. That happens sometimes.
This is the year your girl discovers what she loves. She'll make lifelong friends, smile till her cheeks ache, and explore amazing places. She'll try new things, climb higher, and lend a helping hand. She'll change her world, adventuring in ways you never imagined. She'll grow in confidence, turn dreams into reality, and find her voice. And through it all, she'll have big fun. Give your girl the opportunity to grow with Girl Scouts. Visit girlscouts.org/join today.
One more lighthearted thing that I learned from her is, because we've talked on every podcast, I think, about your list and knowing what regulates you in a healthy way. And I like how she divided hers into spiritual and physical.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if those were the terms. Yeah, spiritual
Physiological physiological and psychological, I think, are her two categories, but same. Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, and even going so far as to writing them down on a sticky note and having it in different places.
Yeah.
I actually thought maybe I should put that on my wine cabinet. Just a reminder, like, here are the healthy things that you could go and do instead of open that bottle of wine.
Oh, I thought your list was going to be white wine, red wine, rosé. No?
No.
Yeah, I liked that.
Don't forget tap dancing.
I thought that was really great to hear her say that it is still on her desk, knowing how deep into this personal work she is. And so it's like, if that still serves her, even though she's so embodied in this, then it surely can serve the rest of us that she's kind of leading down a path of that type of self-reflection and self-mastery. What else?
Good stuff.
I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about her hard stance on breathing and how critical and non-negotiable that is when it comes to just dropping back into your own skin and grounding yourself.
And I still, your dogs are happy.
I was just going to ask you if you could hear that.
They're cheering. They liked that. Go breathing.
I'm going to text Patrick real quick, tell him we're recording. Well, they've stopped. Once they get going, we have a choir director. One of them, the littlest, oldest one, her neck goes back and she starts howling, and then all of them join in. And it's actually very enjoyable, except for when
you're
trying to record a podcast. Then you're
that.
Like, ooh. Yes, but they seem to have stopped.
Okay, back to breathing. I was just going to say, you guys talked a little bit, or someone said something about that the work being soft, or the perception that the work is soft. And again, without this aura ring, I think I would have thought that the response breathing was soft until you see the data and it's not, and that there is a physiological impact instantly from doing that. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of add that in.
Yeah, I mean, it is the most researched, most accessible way to regulate our nervous system. Period. End of story. Whether we need to bring energy into our body or we need to bring our energy down into a more regulated state. Either way, breath is the most researched, most accessible way to do that.
And I liked what you said about it gives you the space to recognize that the snarky email is a snarky email, not a saber-toothed tiger. You love that tiger.
I do. God bless the saber-toothed tiger.
But it's a helpful visual, so I do like that.
Yes.
I also liked her conversation around having cross-functional cohorts, like mixing it up,
me
the
too.
type of people. Because I had actually made a note somewhere that we should have Oxygen for Educator cohorts where we're helping connect people from other spaces who have that level of energy and are that attached to their why, because I think they infuse that oxygen in each other. But then I thought, after that discussion, but they would have to be mixed up from levels. And
yeah, that was such a fresh perspective. I thought just like, what would it look like if the people listening expanded their idea of what their day and week might look like, including who they spend time with and who they interact with and who has access to them. Like, all of those things, we can start to feel like they're fixed. Like, this is what my life looks like. But she did such a nice job of being like, yeah, but you can actually make a right or left turn in little or big ways that infuse joy and energy into your life and into your system. That is available to most all of us.
And didn't she talk about, if you're listening, if you're here, you're already doing the work. You're taking a step in that direction. And it's, you can start small. You can.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved that her breathing advice is to just notice your breathing. Like, it's not some huge thing that you have to like crack a code on. It's like, it just starts with noticing what you're already doing, noticing your breathing, noticing your feet are on the floor. I don't remember who taught me this, but somebody at some meditation at some point said, can you trust gravity? Are you sitting in your seat as if you trust it will actually hold you? And I realized I wasn't. Like, I was literally holding my body as if the chair wasn't there. Not completely, but enough to where it was noticeable when I dropped into my chair as if I trusted gravity. Mm. Yeah, I actually still practice that a lot because I'm not walking through the world as if there's a ground underneath me that will always be there always, or that the chair is actually a solid form. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. I liked the ABC conversation too.
Yeah. What stood out to you about that? I did too.
I think I really loved, hang on, sorry. I loved your question about what else could be true, like in the belief section.
Mm-hmm. You know what I love about that, and I encourage people to dance with this, is you don't have to convince yourself that you should change what you think is true by holding the question, what else could be true? Just like that gentle curiosity without trying to like arm wrestle yourself into a different mindset or a different heart space. Just opens something up that can be really freeing and really dramatic. And when you go to the nervous system work, it's really useful to know that whatever nervous system state is most active in you, that's the story you're telling yourself. So like,
say more about that.
So like if I'm in that dorsal vagal shutdown mode, the story I'm telling myself, it's like almost like you're wearing glasses. Like I'll be telling myself some story that sounds like, I'm alone. I feel helpless. I feel hopeless. Like that'll be the story I'm telling myself. But if you know nervous system work, there's always at least two other stories available to you. So you can just ask yourself, like, if I were in that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system state, what story might I be telling myself? And it could be something like, the world isn't safe. If someone's going down, it's not going to be me, which obviously doesn't sound positive, but that's mobilized energy as compared to that dorsal vagal, which is immobilized energy, where you're like feeling powerless. The triggered state of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, you feel dysregulated, but it's energy. And when we're in that dorsal vagal shutdown, you got to travel through mobilized energy to get to that ventral vagal. And when we're in the ventral vagal space, that safe and connected zone, that's then the story we're telling ourselves is something like, I'm safe, I'm loved, difficult things happen, but I know how to figure it out. I know who I can lean on, things like that. So it's just a really useful exercise to not buy into whatever view you have on something is truth with a capital T. It's a much easier life if you hold it loosely. And I know that's going to trigger some folks who are listening and want to have a fight about that. And I understand, but if they'll just even hold that question around the things that they don't feel triggered about, like it's like, oh yeah, I can understand that in these spaces there's no truth with a capital T. That's fine. Stay there, and maybe the rest comes later, maybe it doesn't matter.
Why would you assume that's triggering?
Because I grew up as a missionary kid. And I know, that there are people who whose sense of safety comes from feeling like there are certain truths with a capital T, and I have access to that and you don't, which is a harsh thing to say, but that's true with a lowercase t.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, I liked that a lot. That's a good question just to keep top of mind.
Yeah.
To bring out often.
What else could be true? And is my lens on this causing me to suffer? And what lens on this would be less hard? And can I step into that? Yeah, what did she say? Don't suffer twice.
Yeah. I had that. I loved that.
Yeah. Don't suffer twice. And also, what you gonna do, barbecue or mildew? I was like, man, I'm gonna be like calling on myself to barbecue the rest of my life because of Amanda.
Well, it's interesting the way that she drops such depth in a very few words that are very playful.
Yes. Like, okay, I have like energy is currency. I thought that was such a good. Too. My free time does not reflect my availability.
I lie to my friends.
I loved that concept. My free time does not reflect my availability. There's so few people that live from that principle where they're like, if there's an open spot on my calendar, if you want it, you get it. Instead of that open spot on my calendar is how I stay sane so I can show up for the next booked spot on my calendar. It's just such a different way to live.
You do that well.
I'm proud to say I live that. but I had to live into that. Like I 100% was the person who, I was booked sun up to sundown, and if you needed time on my calendar, I would crowbar you in, and now I don't do that at all. And it is
we know.
A happy place.
We'll talk more about that, how you feel differently, like your level of joy or peace or...
I mean, it's just so much less frenetic, and I feel much more aligned with when I do show up, I'm acting from a grounded, inspired place instead of, just fumes or ego or endorphins. It's just a really different, and what's the biggest lesson I've come to is I don't think my work is compromised. That's a little bit of a lie in our culture, that if you're not like grinding, you aren't putting something of value out into the world. And I just haven't found that to be true at all. You're like, oh, you've got some work to do to put some value into the world, sister.
No way.
I would listen to you if you saw that. Now they're going again. I think this is our mail carrier, so it'll end soon.
Let's talk about alter egos and essences, because I love that.
Yes, Sasha Fierce.
That was a fun conversation. I've not heard that. I've not heard the essence piece that you added to it.
Yeah, that helped me a lot. And that's Natalie McNeil's work. And basically it's prioritizing being over doing. So like, as a being, who do I want to send into this interaction or this meeting or this whatever, instead of feeling like we're shaping the interaction or the meeting by doing something. That has moved me from, if I'm going to speak or whatever, I try to get my doing work completely done. So like if I had to give the presentation a week before it's due, I could walk in and give it. And then at least 24 hours, but preferably a week. That time I just spend focusing on the being. Like, how do I be the most grounded version of myself when I walk into that room? How do I want people to feel in an exchange with me? And it's as simple as like seen, acknowledged, deeply listened to, hearkening back to our Mark Crotty interview, things like that. Yeah, but there's way more to that. I'll share it with you. I'll share her work with you. It's really interesting.
That really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. It gives you some separation too, like this notion that if there is a part of you, this kind of goes back to internal family systems work as well. Like if there is a part of you that's feeling more vulnerable or raw or exposed, you don't have to send that person to work. Protect that part of you and figure out who you want to send to work that day. It's an interesting way to kind of acknowledge that we have multifaceted aspects living in our body in the same way that there's multiple people living in a family or working at a school or whatever. And you can kind of do some tricky things that end up being very protective of your energy.
I feel like that should be very helpful to listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's good oxygen.
Yeah, and it's a playful thing. Like you can just try it. Just try it and see like what happens for you. And the good thing about the alter ego stuff that Amanda was talking about is you can send someone into a situation that has the capacity to act in a way that feels unattainable to you. So like you could send someone into a meeting that is confident and clear and doesn't get triggered by X, Y, or Z, even though you identify as feeling differently than those three things. And then suddenly you're forced to go, oh, well, she showed up, so she must also live in me. That part of me exists, even though I don't identify with it yet.
Are you familiar with the power pose?
Uh-huh.
That's what that just made me
Amy
think.
Cuddy stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, doing the power pose to bring someone else to work that day.
Yes. It's very
like
interesting.
That. Love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Okay. Oh, I loved the way she talked about choosing an empowering narrative and then looking for evidence of that. And because what ends up happening by default is we often have a problem-oriented narrative or a disempowering narrative, and then confirmation bias is that you see it in every interaction, whether or not it's there. It's just amplified for you. And I liked the flip. I liked how she talked about like, oh, well, what if you overlay like something positive and then you look for evidence of that all day long. I thought that was interesting.
It's really all about just managing your own mind.
Mm-hmm. And nervous system and heart and yes, all the things. Yeah. Very interesting.
And I bet she's going to have a product company within the next couple weeks too.
Listen, this morning or last night, Katie can tell us as if it matters, it doesn't. But I sent her an email of all the like my submissions for her t-shirt line because she's just so quippy. Like she has so many good quippy things.
Tipperific.
She's tipperific. We're right back to where we started. And for someone who thinks as deeply as she does, I think we need to maybe close our conversation with create a great day. Because if that is the thing that is that's where she hangs her hook and that's kind of what shapes her life, knowing how deeply she thinks about everything, we can all learn something from that. Like we can all take that forward and try it on for ourselves.
I love it. And I believe it.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Okay, Amanda, in your honor, we are all going to be creating a great day. Thanks to your tipperific self.
There's a lot to learn from her.
Yeah. She's a good egg. All right, Chris. So I guess we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, and thanks
Bye.
to Katie, the amazing Katie Warden, our producer, editor. What else does she does anything you see going well, just assume Katie's got her hand in it. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.